The Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government, lest it come to dominate our lives and interests. Hello, I'm Alan Scholl for the Freedom Project, sponsored by the American Opinion Foundation. In this episode of our Principles of the Constitution series, we're going to focus on the second half of the Bill of Rights. In our last session, we covered Amendments 1 through 5. Today, we're going to take a look at 6 through 10. Now here's a question for you. True or false? The first draft of the Bill of Rights was written in Washington, D.C. The answer is false. The first draft of the Bill of Rights was written in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was at the Constitutional Convention at the Pennsylvania State House where James Madison originally wrote the 12 amendments which would be ratified into 10 amendments which became known as the Bill of Rights. To create the Bill of Rights, Madison borrowed ideas from the Virginia Declaration of Rights, the English Bill of Rights, and the Enlightenment. Continuing on from where we left off, the Bill of Rights was ratified, that means approved, by 75% of the states in 1791. It was created to protect the natural rights of liberty for all Americans and prevent the federal government from ever limiting those rights. As evidence, the Sixth Amendment talks about the rights Americans are granted in the court system. In fact, it says, "In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury." This amendment covers many areas of criminal prosecution. It states that the trial will take place where the crime was committed. It allows both sides to call on witnesses and the right to legal counsel. The Seventh Amendment continues the court theme by discussing the rights Americans have to civil trial by jury. It states, "In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law." In other words, the Seventh Amendment protects the integrity of the court system in regards to trial by jury. It states that no judge can substitute their opinion of the facts for that of a jury. Likewise, the Eighth Amendment discusses excessive bail and cruel and unusual punishment. In more detail, it says, "Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted." In other words, the original states wanted to make sure that punishment fit the crime when it came to setting bail and fines. It also makes sure that those facing criminal charges are treated humanely. The Ninth Amendment is a particularly important one, whereas it protects the rights not particularly listed in the Constitution. It states, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people." In other words, just because a specific right is not mentioned in the Constitution doesn't mean the government can deny it to citizens. In fact, anything not listed should be considered just as important as any amendment already ratified. Rounding out the Bill of Rights is the key 10th Amendment, which talks about the powers of the states and of the people themselves. It states, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." This amendment confirms the fact that if the Constitution does not specifically assign a power, that power is retained by the states or by the people themselves. Now, if you remember from our last session, James Madison originally penned 12 articles, 10 of which were ratified and became what we now know as the Bill of Rights. To summarize those 10 amendments once more, the first covers freedom of religion, press, expression, assembly, and petition. The second, the right to bear arms. The third, quartering soldiers. The fourth, search and seizure. The fifth, trial and punishment, compensation for takings. The sixth, the right to a speedy trial and confrontation of witnesses. The seventh, trial by jury in civil cases. The eighth, cruel and unusual punishment. The ninth, protects rights not specifically listed in the Constitution. And the 10th Amendment deals with the rights of the states and the people themselves. Once the Bill of Rights was passed in 1791, George Washington had 14 handwritten copies created, one for Congress and one for each of the original 13 states. Today, one of those 14 copies sits on display at the National Archives in our nation's capital. In all, 27 amendments or additions have been made to the Constitution dating back to its creation in 1788. Those amendments include everything from electing a president to abolishing slavery. It typically takes a year to ratify an amendment. However, there have been exceptions, such as the 26th Amendment, which established the voting age at 18, passing in just over 3 months. So did you get that? Let's find out. Question 1. The Bill of Rights was written in A. Philadelphia, B. Washington, D.C., C. Boston, or D. New York? And the answer is A, Philadelphia. The Bill of Rights was originally drafted in the Pennsylvania State House by James Madison. Question 2. True or false? The Sixth Amendment deals with cruel and unusual punishment. The answer is false. The Sixth Amendment covers the right to speedy trial and the confrontation of witnesses. Question 3. The Eighth Amendment deals with A. The right to bear arms, B. Cruel and unusual punishment, C. The right to legal counsel, or D. Search and seizure. And the answer is B. Cruel and unusual punishment. The founders wanted to be sure that the punishment fit the crime. Question 4. How many handwritten copies did George Washington have made of the Bill of Rights? A. 1, B. 13, C. 14, or D. 15? The answer is C, 14, one for each state and one for Congress. Question 5. In all, how many amendments were made to the Constitution? A, 10, B, 12, C, 27, or D, 72? The answer is C, 27. After the Bill of Rights was ratified, 17 more amendments were written throughout the years. How did you do? Hopefully, we were able to teach you a little bit more about the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the amendments. I'm Alan Scholl for the Freedom Project. Welcome home.